My name is Jonathan Toney, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Blind Alien Productions. Blind Alien Productions, or BAP for short, was founded for the purpose of producing media of various types with a focus on interactive entertainment software, or games. Because of our unique circumstances and my own personal skill set, we build a lot of in-house technology to solve issues that would otherwise be obstacles to a small studio like ours. The crown jewel of our in-house technology set is a framework I call the Scenario Manager and its associated scripting language, BAPScript. I call this a framework because it exists not just as a plugin with a custom scripting language designed for ease of use, but also because it includes a described workflow that can enable a small team to either create mountains of content rapidly and cost-effectively, or deliver smaller, bite-sized content on a regular basis without overburdening the production team. This framework exists in the form of three key components. The first is the scripting language, called BAPScript. The scripting language is designed from the ground up to be near human-readable for those who do not know how to script, as well as make it accessible for training AI models, which is a future development goal I intend to aim for when the conditions are right. These scripts serve as instructions to the Scenario Manager on how to run scenarios. Second is the Scenario Manager itself. This is a class written in C# in the Unity engine and serves as the ingest point for the scripts. It reads these scripts in as JSON objects and retains them in memory until they are no longer needed. A handful of other classes can accompany the Scenario Manager based upon the needs of a given project. The third component is the Positional Data Rigs, where in some cases teams may choose a tighter integration between the Scenario Manager and their custom tools. Positional data rigs are used to provide consistent reference points to the Scenario Manager and can be conformed to multiple different levels. This framework was designed with small studio constraints in mind, so the pros and cons were weighed with respect to that in early stages of development. However, scalability, flexibility, and cinematic control was at the core of the design, so while a small team can make effective use of the framework, a large team, like what might be found at a AAA studio, should find the framework just as powerful with the right integration. Currently, the best example of this framework's implementation can be found in the game Frontiers Reach, which I solo developed over the course of 4.5 years and which served as a near-perfect environment where I could really put the Scenario Manager through its paces. The most crucial implementation of this framework was the War Map. War Map plays host to two simple AI bots which represent two different factions, rolling dice over nodes that represent points of strategic concern. At different stages in the conflict for a node, different missions become available. Each of these missions use slightly altered versions of templated scenario scripts depending on which faction owns the node, and templates of the same type use the exact same positional data rig to determine the spawn locations and player and AI navigation points for the scenario. Structured in this way, the War Map hosts over 2,000 different scenario variations that players can engage with in the war for control of the frontier worlds. However, the primary advantage of the framework is the externalization of scenario data via the scenario scripts. These scripts are mere kilobytes in size, and when the framework is implemented properly, allow entire swaths of content and even balance changes and bug fixes to be deployed without redeploying the entire application. To illustrate this, all of the tutorial, main story, and War Map scenario scripts in Frontiers Reach account for less than 1 megabyte of data, and in play sessions with my community members, some of them have put in as much as 80+ hours of playtime. With this framework in place, small teams of developers can not only move mountains on their own, but also begin to lay the groundwork for producing content for their games using custom-trained AI models, some of which are already commercially available and being used in other contexts. This will not just speed up production times, but reduce the cost of production across the board, and the cost in terms of time and capital to deploy add-on content and fixes. For reference, my own costs in terms of actual capital spent on Frontiers Reach is less than $60,000 USD. factoring in my personal time invested of around 9,000 hours at a rate of 100 USD an hour, is around 960,000 USD, and that's without the use of generative AI to carry the workload. With all of that said, it would be my pleasure to bring this technology to your teams and to continue to develop it to facilitate meeting the needs of your projects. Licensing both an actively developed branch of the code and my services to train your teams and facilitate integrations is just a conversation away.